The Zephyrian cargo vessel Nexus Drift descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its hull scarred from countless journeys across the galaxy. Captain Vexthal adjusted his breathing apparatus as toxic fumes leaked from the ship's waste compartments. For the Zephyrians, this was just another routine disposal run to the quarantine planet they had designated as Sector 7G. Atmospheric readings confirm the planet remains uninhabitable, reported Navigator Crixtal, her tentacles dancing across the control interface. Perfect conditions for another waste drop. Vexthal nodded, his three eyes scanning the blue-green world below. The Zephyrian Empire had been using this remote planet as their primary toxic waste disposal site for over 2 centuries. It was the ideal solution, far from populated systems, already contaminated beyond redemption, and completely lifeless according to their initial surveys. The ship's cargo bay contained the usual collection of horrors: radioactive sludge from their mining operations, chemical byproducts from weapons manufacturing, biological waste from their genetic experiments, and the dissolved remains of their industrial accidents. All of it sealed in containment pods that would crack open upon impact, releasing their toxic contents into the planet's ecosystem. Beginning descent to Drop Zone Alpha 7, Crixtal announced. Estimated time to disposal completion, 14 minutes. As the ship broke through the cloud cover, Vexthal noticed something odd. Strange geometric patterns dotted the landscape below, too regular to be natural formations, yet too primitive to be the work of any advanced civilization. He dismissed the observation. Their scans had confirmed this world harbored no intelligent life. Meanwhile, in the small farming town of Millbrook, Kansas, Sarah Chin looked up from her morning coffee as a strange whistling sound filled the air. She stepped onto her porch, shielding her eyes against the dawn sun. High above, she could make out an oddly shaped object descending toward the old Henderson farm. Meteor shower, maybe, she muttered, pulling out her phone to record the phenomenon. The object seemed too controlled in its descent, too purposeful. As it disappeared behind the tree line, Sarah made a mental note to drive over later and see if anything had landed. The Nexus Drift touched down in what the crew assumed was empty wasteland. In reality, they had landed in an abandoned section of farmland that had been left fallow for the season. Their sensors, calibrated for detecting advanced technology and large population centers, completely missed the small rural community just 5 miles away. Initiating waste deployment sequence, reported Weapons Officer Zek Moore, his scaled hands working the release controls. All pods armed and ready for dispersal. The first wave of containment pods launched from the ship's belly, arcing through the air before crashing into the surrounding fields. Toxic green sludge spread across the soil, radioactive particles scattered in the wind, and chemical compounds that could melt through Starship hull plating soaked into the ground. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that Earth's ecosystem had been dealing with their toxic gifts for 200 years. The planet they thought was a lifeless rock had actually developed remarkable resilience. The bacteria in the soil had evolved to process their waste products. The plants had adapted to absorb and neutralize their chemicals. Even the groundwater had developed natural filtration systems that broke down their radioactive compounds. More importantly, the humans living on Earth had unknowingly been exposed to low levels of these alien toxins for generations. Their immune systems had adapted. Their genetic code had subtly shifted. What should have been deadly poison had instead triggered an evolutionary leap that no one fully understood yet. Back in Millbrook, Tom Martinez was checking his cornfield when he noticed something strange. The soil in the far section, where he'd seen those bright flashes the night before, had turned an unusual shade of green. Being a practical farmer, he bent down to examine it more closely. The soil felt warm, almost alive. Strange crystalline formations jutted from the earth, pulsing with an inner light. Tom should have been concerned, should have called the authorities. Instead, he found himself drawn to touch one of the crystals. The moment his bare skin made contact, something extraordinary happened. Information flooded his mind, not in words or images, but in pure understanding. He suddenly knew that his corn would grow 3 times faster this season. He knew which areas of his field needed more nitrogen, which sections had optimal pH levels, and exactly when to plant for maximum yield. More than that, he could sense the living network beneath his feet, a vast web of roots, fungi, and microorganisms all working together in perfect harmony. The alien waste that was supposed to poison the Earth had instead created a biological supercomputer, and somehow Tom could interface with it. 20 miles away, the Zephyrian crew was preparing for their second waste dump. Vexthul studied his instruments with growing confusion. The atmospheric readings showed their previous toxin drop had simply vanished. Radiation levels that should have spiked were completely normal. Chemical signatures that should have lasted for centuries had disappeared entirely. Run another diagnostic on the sensor array, he ordered Krixtau. Something must be malfunctioning. All systems showing green, Captain, she replied. But I'm detecting some unusual biological activity in the drop zone. The planet's ecosystem appears to be processing our waste materials. Vexthul's middle eye narrowed. In all their years of dumping on this world, they had never seen such rapid neutralization of their toxins. Perhaps the planet's natural systems had finally reached some kind of saturation point. Deploy the next wave, he commanded. Double the concentration this time. The second barrage of containment pods crashed down across a wider area, spreading their toxic payload over several square miles. This time, some of the waste landed uncomfortably close to human habitation. In the small city of Newton, about 30 miles from Millbrook, Dr. Amanda Foster was running her usual morning jog when the sky lit up with falling debris. As the head of the local medical clinic, she felt obligated to investigate any potential hazards to public health. She followed the crash sites until she found a crater still smoking with multicolored chemical residue. The smart thing would have been to call hazmat teams and evacuate the area. Instead, Amanda found herself approaching the site with curious fascination rather than fear. The chemicals should have burned her lungs, should have blistered her skin on contact. Instead, she felt oddly energized. Her mind seemed sharper, her senses more acute. When she knelt to examine the alien substances more closely, her medical training kicked into overdrive. She could see the molecular structure of the compounds, could understand their intended toxicity, and, most remarkably, could observe how her own cellular structure was adapting to neutralize their effects in real time. It was as if her DNA was rewriting itself to turn poison into nutrition. Back at the farm, Tom Martinez was discovering that his new connection to the Earth went far beyond agriculture. He could sense every living thing within a 10-mile radius. The deer moving through the forest, the birds migrating overhead, even the insects pollinating his neighbor's garden. More concerning, he could sense something else, the presence of beings that didn't belong to Earth's natural order. Above him, in the strange ship that had brought the glowing chemicals, alien minds worked with methodical precision to poison his world. For the first time in his life, Tom felt anger that went beyond human emotion. It was the fury of an entire planet that had been violated for centuries. The Earth itself was crying out for justice, and, somehow, he had become its voice. Dr. Foster was experiencing similar revelations. As the alien chemicals integrated with her system, she gained an intuitive understanding of biological processes that went far beyond her medical degree. She could see the evolutionary adaptations that had been building in the human population for generations, hidden changes that had prepared them for this moment. The Zephyrians thought they were dumping waste on a dead world. They had no idea they were feeding a sleeping giant that was finally ready to wake up. As night fell, more strange lights appeared across the Kansas sky. The alien ship was making its final waste drops before departing for home. But this time people were watching. This time they were ready. In small towns across the region, humans were discovering abilities they never knew they possessed. Farmers found they could communicate with their crops on a molecular level. Mechanics discovered they could understand the quantum mechanics of any machine just by touching it. Teachers realized they could share knowledge directly from mind to mind. The toxic waste that was supposed to kill them was instead unlocking human potential that had been dormant for millennia. Each alien chemical compound acted like a key, opening genetic locks that evolution had carefully put in place. Sarah Chun was among the first to make the connection. As a former biochemistry student turned small-town librarian, she had the scientific background to understand what was happening. The patterns were undeniable. Every person exposed to the alien waste was manifesting enhanced abilities. She began documenting everything. The locations of the chemical drops, the symptoms people were experiencing, the timeline of their transformations. If this was some kind of first contact scenario, humanity needed to be prepared. What Sarah couldn't know was that aboard the Nexus Drift, Captain Vexthul was having similar thoughts. His ship's bioscanners, designed to detect any life signs that might interfere with their waste disposal operations, had finally calibrated properly for Earth's unique biological signatures. The readings were impossible to believe. The planet wasn't just inhabited, it was teeming with a complex technological civilization that his crew had somehow completely missed. Worse, the life forms appeared to be adapting to their toxic waste at a rate that defied all known biology. Captain Krickstow reported with barely controlled panic. I'm reading massive biological activity across the entire drop zone. Whatever species inhabits this world appears to be evolving in real time. Vexthal stared at the scanner displays in growing horror. They hadn't been dumping waste on an empty world. They had been poisoning an inhabited planet for 2 centuries, and now its native species was developing resistance faster than should be physically possible. As the implications sank in, one thought dominated his alien mind. If these creatures could adapt to their most deadly toxins in a matter of hours, what else might they be capable of? Below them, across the farmlands and small towns of Kansas, humanity was about to find out. The emergency meeting in Millbrook's Community Center had drawn nearly 200 people from surrounding towns. Word spread quickly in rural communities, and the strange events of the past week had everyone talking. Sarah Chun stood at the front of the room, her laptop connected to a projector displaying a map dotted with red markers. These are all the confirmed impact sites, she explained to the worried crowd. And these blue dots represent people who've reported unusual experiences since the incidents began. A murmur ran through the audience. Nearly every blue dot overlapped with a red one. Dr. Amanda Foster raised her hand from the third row. I've been documenting the medical aspects, Amanda said, standing to address the group. What we're seeing isn't radiation sickness or chemical poisoning. It's the opposite. People are getting healthier, stronger, more capable. My corn is growing faster than it should, called out Tom Martinez from the back. And I can tell you exactly what every plant in my field needs just by walking past it. My grandson solved calculus problems yesterday, added elderly Mrs. Patterson. He's only 8 years old, and he's never seen math like that before. Similar stories emerged from across the room. Enhanced memory, improved physical coordination, sudden understanding of complex concepts, and, most remarkably, the ability to sense and communicate with living systems around them. Sarah clicked to the next slide, showing satellite imagery she had accessed through her library's database. I think we need to face the possibility that those weren't meteors or military tests. The trajectory patterns, the uniform spacing, the deliberate targeting of unpopulated areas. This looks like someone was dumping something on our planet. The room erupted in voices as people processed this revelation. Dr. Foster moved to the front to help Sarah field questions. The important thing, Amanda said, raising her voice over the crowd, is that whatever was dumped isn't hurting us. Our bodies are processing it, adapting to it, using it to unlock capabilities we never knew we had. But why now? Asked Mike Hendricks, a local mechanic who had discovered he could diagnose engine problems just by listening to them. If this has been going on for a long time, why are we just now developing these abilities? Sarah had been researching that exact question. I think it's reached critical mass. Like how a computer needs enough RAM to run complex programs. Our bodies have been slowly building up trace amounts of these foreign compounds for generations. Now, we finally have enough to trigger these changes. What the people of Kansas didn't know was that similar awakenings were happening all across the planet. In rural China, farmers were reporting that they could make their rice grow twice as fast with half the water. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous communities were discovering they could communicate directly with the forest itself. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal elders were finding that their traditional Dreamtime stories suddenly made literal sense. They could actually walk between the spiritual and physical worlds. Humanity wasn't just developing individual superpowers. The entire species was connecting to something larger, something that had been building beneath the surface for 2 centuries. Meanwhile, aboard the Nexus Drift, Captain Vexthal was dealing with his own crisis. He had sent an encrypted message to Zephyrian High Command 3 days ago, reporting the unexpected discovery of intelligent life on their disposal world. The response had finally arrived, and it wasn't what he had hoped for. The High Council's orders are clear, Navigator Krickstow reported grimly. We are to complete one final massive waste deployment, then depart immediately and classify all records of this incident. Vexthol's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among his species. They want us to poison an inhabited world and then pretend it never happened? The exact wording is eliminate potential contamination witnesses through accelerated toxin exposure. Crixtal read from the official dispatch. High Command considers the native species an acceptable loss to protect Imperial waste disposal operations. The captain stared at his bridge crew, all of whom were avoiding eye contact. They were soldiers, trained to follow orders without question. But they were also thinking beings who had just learned they had been unwittingly committing genocide for 2 centuries. How long would it take to prepare a full cargo dump? Vexthal asked quietly. Approximately 6 hours to configure all remaining waste pods for simultaneous release, reported Weapons Officer Zekmore. The toxic payload would contaminate roughly 10,000 square kilometers with lethal concentrations. In other words, enough poison to kill several million humans instantly, with lingering effects that would make the entire region uninhabitable for centuries. It was standard procedure for dealing with contamination incidents in Zephyrian space. But Vexthal found himself hesitating. These humans had done something his people scientists claimed was impossible. They had adapted to grade 9 toxins in real time. That suggested an evolutionary flexibility that was frankly terrifying from a military perspective. Sir, Crixtal said softly, there's something else you need to see. Our deep-range scanners have detected similar biological anomalies at waste disposal sites across the planet. This isn't isolated to our current location. The captain's worst fears were confirmed. They hadn't just contaminated one area. They had been inadvertently triggering a planet-wide evolutionary event for 2 centuries. If the humans were developing resistance to their toxins, what other capabilities might they be developing? Back on Earth, the people gathered in Millbrook were about to discover the answer to that question. Sarah had been monitoring radio frequencies and internet chatter all morning, looking for reports of similar incidents worldwide. What she found exceeded her wildest expectations. We're not alone, she announced to the community meeting that evening. I've confirmed similar events in at least 47 countries. People are developing enhanced abilities everywhere that these chemical drops occurred. Dr. Foster had been coordinating with medical professionals worldwide through encrypted channels. The pattern was consistent and remarkable. The abilities seemed to fall into several categories, Amanda explained. Enhanced physical capabilities, strength, speed, coordination. Cognitive improvements, memory, processing speed, pattern recognition. And something we're calling biological interface, the ability to communicate with and control living systems. Tom Martinez nodded. His own connection to the Earth had grown stronger each day. He could now sense the health and needs of every plant within a 50-mile radius. More remarkably, he had discovered he could share this capability with others through direct contact. I've been teaching people how to tap into the network, Tom explained. It's like the planet itself has a nervous system, and we're becoming part of it. This revelation sparked intense discussion. If humans were connecting to some kind of planetary consciousness, what did that mean for their role on Earth? The answer came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Patterson's 8-year-old grandson, Tommy, had been quietly listening to the adults talk. Suddenly, he stood up with a serious expression that had become common among enhanced children. The planet isn't just talking to us, Tommy announced in his clear, young voice. It's trying to warn us about something. Something coming from the sky that wants to hurt everything. The room fell silent. Enhanced children have been displaying remarkable intuitive abilities, often knowing things they had no logical way of understanding. What kind of warning, sweetie? Sarah asked gently. Tommy closed his eyes, his small face concentrating intensely. The poison ships. They're coming back, but this time they want to make everything dead forever. We have to stop them, or there won't be any more trees or animals or people. Dr. Foster felt a chill run down her spine. Tommy, how do you know this? The Earth told me. It's been trying to get strong enough to fight back for a long, long time. That's why it made us special, so we could help. As if summoned by Tommy's words, Tom Martinez suddenly stiffened. His connection to the planetary network was picking up massive disturbances in the upper atmosphere. He's right, Tom said grimly. Something big is coming. I can feel the planet's fear, terror, whatever's up there. It's much worse than what we've seen before. Sarah immediately began checking her monitoring equipment. Within minutes, she had confirmation from multiple sources. The strange ship that had been visible in the sky was ascending rapidly, but dozens of other objects were converging on their location from across the solar system. "We're looking at what appears to be a fleet," she reported. "At least 30 vessels, all heading for Earth." The Zephyrian reinforcements had arrived. High Admiral Drixval commanded the Imperial fleet from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Void Cleanser. The ship was specifically designed for what military doctrine euphemistically called biosphere sterilization, the complete eradication of life on contaminated worlds. Status report on the contamination incident, the Admiral demanded as his fleet took position around Earth. "Captain Vexthal has confirmed widespread biological resistance to our standard toxin deployment," reported Fleet Intelligence Officer Nexium. "The native species appears to have developed immunity to grade 9 compounds in less than one planetary rotation." Drixval's forearms gestured dismissively. "Impossible. No known biology can adapt that rapidly." "The data is verified, sir. Moreover, our xenobiology team believes the natives may be developing enhanced cognitive and physical capabilities as a result of exposure to our waste products." The Admiral's carapace darkened with anger. This was exactly the kind of contamination incident that had led to the extinction of 12 species in the Outer Rim. Allowing enhanced biologics to survive and potentially spread beyond their homeworld was against every protocol in the Imperial Handbook. "Prepare the cleansing protocol," Drixval ordered. "We will sterilize this entire world and reseed it with approved bacterial colonies within the solar cycle." The cleansing protocol involved releasing concentrated toxins into the planet's atmosphere, oceans, and groundwater simultaneously. It would kill every living thing larger than a microbe within 72 hours, leaving the world ready for industrial processing. On Earth, the enhanced humans were beginning to understand the magnitude of the threat they faced. Through their growing connection to the planetary network, they could sense the malevolent intent of the ships gathering above them. But they were also discovering that their new abilities were far more powerful than anyone had initially realized. Dr. Foster had been experimenting with her enhanced biology when she made a startling discovery. She could not only adapt to toxins, she could produce and control them herself. Her body had become a living laboratory capable of synthesizing compounds that didn't exist in nature. Tom Martinez found that his connection to plant life extended to genetic manipulation. He could encourage crops to develop new traits in real time, essentially directing their evolution through conscious will. Sarah Chun discovered her enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to process and correlate vast amounts of information simultaneously. She had become a living supercomputer, capable of analyzing patterns across global networks and predicting outcomes with startling accuracy. Most remarkably, when enhanced humans work together, their abilities seem to multiply exponentially. Tommy Patterson and the other enhanced children had become conduits for sharing capabilities across the entire network of awakened humans. As night fell across Kansas, something unprecedented was happening. Hundreds of enhanced humans were linking their consciousness together, guided by the planetary network that had been growing beneath their feet for 2 centuries. For the first time since the Zephyrians had begun dumping their waste, Earth was preparing to fight back. And the aliens who had treated it as a lifeless dumping ground were about to learn that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. The real question wasn't whether humanity could defend their world. The question was whether the Zephyrian Empire would survive the encounter with what they had accidentally created. The network of enhanced humans had grown beyond anything Sarah Chun could have imagined when she first started documenting the strange incidents in Kansas. In just 2 weeks, their informal alliance had become a global consciousness spanning 6 continents and involving over 3 million people. Sarah sat in the renovated barn that had become their coordination center, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards while data streams flowed directly into her enhanced mind. Around her, dozens of volunteers worked with technology they were inventing in real time, guided by intuitive understanding of quantum mechanics, biological engineering, and computational theory that no human should have possessed. Global Status Report, announced Dr. Amanda Foster from a medical station. "We now have confirmed enhancement clusters in 237 countries. The awakening is accelerating. New people are joining the network every few minutes." Tom Martinez looked up from the agricultural monitoring station, where he was coordinating with farmers worldwide. The planetary network is showing massive growth spurts everywhere our people are located. Crop yields are increasing, soil quality is improving, and damaged ecosystems are regenerating at visible speeds. Most importantly, added 12-year-old Tommy Patterson, speaking with the authority that enhanced children had developed, the planet is getting ready to defend itself. It's been preparing for this fight longer than humans have existed. The boy's statement hung in the air with disturbing implications. Through their connection to the planetary network, they had learned that Earth's ecosystem wasn't just randomly evolving in response to alien toxins. Something deeper was happening, something that suggested the planet itself had been waiting for this moment. Above them, the Zephyrian fleet had taken position in Earth's upper atmosphere. Long-range scanners showed 37 vessels of varying sizes, with more arriving each day. The largest ship, which Sarah's team had designated as the command vessel, was easily the size of Manhattan and bristling with weapons systems that could crack continents. "They're not trying to hide anymore," reported Marcus Webb, a former Air Force radar operator whose enhanced senses could now track objects far beyond normal equipment limitations. "I'm reading massive energy buildups across their entire fleet. Whatever they're planning, it's going to be big." The answer came sooner than expected. Captain Vexthal, still aboard his much smaller cargo vessel, received direct communication from High Admiral Drixval. "Captain, you are ordered to provide detailed scans of the contamination zone before we commence cleansing operations." The Admiral's synthesized voice crackled through the ship's communication system. Vexthal had been dreading this moment. His conscience, something he hadn't known his species possessed, had been troubling him for days. "Admiral, I must report that the native population shows signs of advanced intelligence and technology. They may qualify for Imperial protection under the Sentient Species Preservation Act." The silence that followed was longer than the speed of light delay between ships. When Drixval finally responded, his tone carried deadly coldness. "Captain, you will confine yourself to factual observations. The Imperial Science Division has already classified this species as non-sentient based on their primitive technology and lack of spaceflight capability. Cleansing operations will commence in exactly 72 hours. The connection terminated, leaving Vexthal staring at his control panels in despair. He understood now why the Empire classified so many species as non-sentient. It was much easier to exterminate beings if you convinced yourself they weren't really intelligent. But Vexthal had been monitoring human communications for 2 weeks. He had watched them develop technology from scratch, solve complex problems collaboratively, and demonstrate creativity and compassion that put Zephyrian civilization to shame. These beings were not only sentient, they might be more evolved than his own species. The captain made a decision that would have been unthinkable just a month earlier. He opened a communication channel on a frequency he had observed the humans using for their coordination efforts. Down in Kansas, Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up the transmission before their equipment did. The alien voice, speaking in halting but recognizable English, sent shock waves through the command center. "Human beings of Earth, this is Captain Vexthal of the Zephyrian cargo vessel Nexus Drift. I must warn you that my fleet intends to sterilize your entire world in 72 hours. I deeply regret my role in the contamination of your planet." The barn fell completely silent as everyone processed this first direct contact with an alien intelligence. Dr. Foster was the first to respond, moving to the communication console with steady hands despite her racing heart. "Captain Vexthal, this is Dr. Amanda Foster speaking for the people of Earth. We appreciate your warning, but we need to understand what sterilization means. Your species will be completely eliminated," came the alien's devastating reply. "Your atmosphere will be poisoned, your oceans acidified, your soil contaminated beyond recovery. It is Imperial protocol for dealing with biological contamination incidents." Tommy Patterson stepped forward, his young face grave with understanding beyond his years. "Tell him about the network, Dr. Foster. Tell him what the planet really is." Amanda hesitated, then decided that honesty was their only option. "Captain, I need you to understand something. The toxins your people have been dumping on our world haven't been poisoning us. They've been awakening something that was already here, something that's been waiting for this moment for millions of years." Vexthal's confusion was evident in his response. "I did not understand. Our bioweapons are designed to destroy all organic life forms. Nothing should be able to survive exposure, let alone benefit from it." Sarah joined the conversation, her enhanced mind processing strategy and diplomacy simultaneously. Captain, we believe Earth itself is a form of intelligent life. The ecosystem, the planetary network of roots and fungi and microorganisms, it's all connected in ways we're just beginning to understand. Your toxins didn't poison it. They fed it, made it stronger. That is scientifically impossible, Vexthal protested, but his tone suggested he was beginning to doubt his own certainty. Tom Martinez stepped up to the microphone. I can show you, he said simply. I can prove that the planet is alive and aware. But I'll need you to come down here and make physical contact with the surface. The request was absurd by any military standard, but Vexthal found himself genuinely curious about these remarkable beings. Against all protocol, he made another decision that would have horrified his superiors. I will come down, he agreed. But I must warn you, if my ship fails to report on schedule, the fleet will assume I've been captured and will commence sterilization immediately. Within hours, the Nexus drift had landed in the same field where this entire crisis had begun. Vexthal emerged from his ship wearing a full environmental suit, his three-eyed face visible through a transparent visor designed to protect him from Earth's supposedly toxic atmosphere. The delegation that met him was unlike anything in Zephyrian experience. Tom Martinez approached slowly, his hands visible and empty. Behind him came Dr. Foster, Sarah Chun, young Tommy Patterson, and dozens of other enhanced humans whose presence seemed to make the very air shimmer with potential energy. Remove your protective gear, Tom said gently. I promise you, our atmosphere won't hurt you. Vexthal hesitated. Everything in his training screamed against exposing himself to an alien biosphere. But these beings had survived his people's most deadly toxins. Perhaps their world truly was different. He removed his helmet first, then gradually shed the entire environmental suit. Earth's air filled his lungs, and instead of the burning death he expected, he felt a strange sense of clarity and peace. Now, Tom said, kneeling and placing his palm flat against the soil, touch the earth. When Vexthal's alien hand made contact with Earth's surface, the change was immediate and overwhelming. Information flooded his consciousness, not in words or images, but in direct understanding that bypassed language entirely. He could sense the vast network of life that stretched beneath and around him. Every plant, every microorganism, every particle of soil was connected in an intricate web of communication and cooperation that spanned the entire planet. More than that, he could feel the presence behind it all, an intelligence so vast and patient that it made his own species seem like children. By the Empire's blood, he whispered in his own language, then switched back to English. It's alive. The entire world is alive. And it's been evolving for 4 billion years, Tommy added matter-of-factly. When your people started dumping toxins here, it decided to evolve some defenders. The full implications crashed over Vexthal like a tidal wave. His people hadn't been dumping waste on a dead world. They'd been feeding a sleeping god, and now it was waking up. Your fleet, he said urgently. They must be warned. They cannot comprehend what they are attempting to destroy. Sarah nodded grimly. We've been monitoring their communications. Your admiral seems convinced that superior technology guarantees victory. He's planning to poison our entire atmosphere. Drixval has never encountered biological resistance to Imperial weapons, Vexthal explained. In his experience, sufficient toxicity can eliminate any life form. He cannot conceive of a species that grows stronger when poisoned. Dr. Foster exchanged glances with the other enhanced humans. They had been preparing for this confrontation, but hearing the enemy's strategy confirmed their worst fears. We need time, she said. How long before the sterilization begins? 43 hours, Vexthal replied, checking his chronometer. But even if I could delay them, you must understand, Imperial doctrine allows for no compromise once cleansing operations begin. They will not stop until every trace of life on this world has been eliminated. Tommy Patterson tugged on Dr. Foster's sleeve. Tell him about the seeds, the boy said quietly. Amanda knelt down to Tommy's level. What seeds, sweetheart? The ones the planet has been making. Every time the poison ships came, the planet made new seeds and hid them deep inside the earth. Seeds that can grow anywhere, even in dead space. The adults exchanged startled looks. Through their connection to the planetary network, they had sensed vast preparations happening beneath the surface, but they hadn't understood the full scope. Tom Martinez closed his eyes and extended his consciousness deep into the earth. What he found there made him gasp with astonishment. "He's right," Tom announced. "There are seed pods, I guess you call them. Millions of them, maybe billions, scattered through the planet's crust. Each one contains a complete genetic template for rebuilding Earth's entire ecosystem." Not just rebuilding, Tommy corrected with the precision that enhanced children displayed. Spreading. The planet wants to grow beyond Earth. It's been waiting for someone to carry its seeds to other worlds. Vexthal stared at the human child with growing horror. "You're describing a biological invasion on a galactic scale." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We're describing survival. Your empire has been poisoning our world for 2 centuries. Earth has been preparing to defend itself, and if necessary, to survive by spreading to worlds where it can't be poisoned anymore." The Zephyrian captain realized he was witnessing the birth of something that would change the galaxy forever. His species had accidentally triggered the evolution of a planet-sized organism with the capability to terraform entire star systems. "I must warn my fleet," he said desperately. "They need to understand what they're facing." "They won't listen," Tommy said sadly. "The planet can feel their thoughts from here. They're too afraid to change their minds now." As if summoned by the boy's words, Vexthal's communication device crackled to life. High Admiral Drixval's voice filled the air with cold authority. "Captain Vexthal, you are overdue for your status report. Confirm that you are uncompromised and provide final contamination assessment." Vexthal looked around at the humans who had shown him truths that challenged everything he believed about life and intelligence. Then, he made his final choice. "Admiral," he replied, "I must report that the contamination is far more extensive than previously assessed. I recommend immediate withdrawal and reclassification of this system as a protected biological preserve." The silence that followed was brief, but ominous. When Drixval responded, his voice carried the finality of military judgment. "Captain, you are clearly compromised by biological contamination. Cleansing operations are moved up to commence immediately. May the Empire remember your service." As the transmission ended, the enhanced humans could feel something awakening in the depths of the Earth. The planet had heard the alien admiral's words, and it was preparing to show the Zephyrian Empire exactly what 4 billion years of evolution could accomplish when properly motivated. The war for Earth was about to begin. The first sign that Earth was fighting back came from the enhanced children scattered across 6 continents. Within minutes of Admiral Drixval's decision to commence immediate sterilization, every child connected to the planetary network began speaking in perfect unison, regardless of their native language. "The deep seeds are rising," they announced simultaneously, their young voices carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate through the ground itself. The long preparation ends now. In the Kansas Command Center, Tommy Patterson's eyes rolled back to show only white as he became a conduit for the planet's consciousness. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of geological time. "Zephyrian Empire fleet, you have been poisoning our world for 200 of your years. Your actions have awakened something your species cannot comprehend. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your contamination." High Admiral Drixval, monitoring human communications from his flagship, felt a chill of recognition. The voice coming through their speakers was somehow using gravitational waves to transmit directly to his ship, bypassing all known communication technology. More disturbing, it was speaking perfect Zephyrian despite humanity having no previous contact with his language. "Impossible," the Admiral muttered, but his tactical officers were already reporting massive energy signatures rising from the planet's surface. Captain Vexthal, still standing in the Kansas farmland with his human hosts, felt the ground begin to vibrate beneath his feet. Through the connection Tom Martinez had shown him, he could sense enormous structures moving deep within Earth's crust. "What is happening?" he asked urgently. Sarah Chun, her enhanced mind processing data from monitoring stations worldwide, provided the answer with grim efficiency. "The planet is opening seed chambers that have been growing for millions of years. We're detecting massive geological activity on every continent." On the screens around them, satellite imagery showed the impossible. Across the globe, the Earth was splitting open in perfectly geometric patterns, revealing structures that defied conventional biology. What emerged wasn't recognizable as either plant or machine, but something that combined the growth patterns of living organisms with the precision of advanced technology. Dr. Amanda Foster watched the medical readings from enhanced humans worldwide spike beyond her instrument's ability to measure. Everyone connected to the network is experiencing massive physiological changes. It's like they're becoming something more than human. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal elder Mary Tungera felt her consciousness expand beyond her physical body as ancient root systems deeper than any archaeological dig connected her mind to a global intelligence. Her weathered hands began manipulating patterns of soil and stone with precision that would have impressed computer manufacturers. In the Amazon rainforest, botanist Dr. Carlos Mendoza discovered he could direct the growth of trees in real time, accelerating their development from seedlings to maturity in minutes while maintaining perfect genetic stability. The forest around him was becoming something that had never existed on Earth, a living computational matrix capable of processing information faster than any supercomputer. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, marine biologist Dr. Sarah Kim found she could breathe underwater as her enhanced physiology adapted to marine environments in real time. Around her, coral reefs were growing into complex, three-dimensional structures that resembled circuit boards more than natural formations. The pattern was consistent worldwide. Enhanced humans were becoming living interfaces between the planetary consciousness and the physical environment, while Earth itself was revealing technologies that biology had been developing in secret for geological ages. Aboard the Void Cleanser, Admiral Drixval was receiving reports that challenged everything in Imperial doctrine. "Sir, we're detecting energy signatures that exceed our understanding of biological systems. The entire planet appears to be a single integrated organism." "Irrelevant," Drixval declared, though his confidence was shaking. "Commence atmosphérique poisonning. Maximum toxicity across all continents simultaneously." The first wave of toxin dispersal began as planned. 37 Zephyrian vessels released concentrated death into Earth's atmosphere, enough poison to sterilize 100 worlds. The chemicals were designed to break down oxygen molecules, acidify water supplies, and disrupt cellular metabolism at the quantum level. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The toxins never reached the surface. As the poisonous clouds descended through the atmosphere, they encountered a barrier that had never existed before. Enhanced humans worldwide were discovering they could project biological fields beyond their physical bodies, creating zones where toxins were not just neutralized, but converted into nutrition for accelerated plant growth. Tom Martinez, standing in the Kansas farmland, felt his consciousness expand to encompass hundreds of square miles. His enhanced biology was producing compounds that interacted with the alien toxins on a molecular level, transforming death into life with chemical processes that transcended known science. "The atmosphere is healing itself," Sarah reported with amazement, watching global air quality monitors show impossible readings. Every toxin they're dropping is being processed faster than they can deploy it. But Earth wasn't content with mere defense. Deep beneath the surface, structures that had been growing in secret since the first alien waste dump were finally ready to emerge. The first breakthrough occurred in the Sahara Desert, where the sand began fountaining upward in perfect spirals. What emerged defied classification. Organic spires that reached toward space with surfaces that gleamed like metal but flexed like living tissue. Within hours, similar structures were rising from the ocean floors, mountain ranges, and even urban areas where the underground network had been quietly growing. Captain Vexthal watched in fascination as one of the spires erupted from the farmland less than a mile away. "Those structures are achieving escape velocity," he observed with professional awe. "Your planet is literally reaching toward our fleet." His observation proved prophetic. The organic spires weren't just growing upward, they were launching something into space. Seed pods the size of buildings began streaking toward the Zephyrian fleet with trajectories that demonstrated impossible precision for biological systems. Admiral Drixval watched the approaching projectiles with growing alarm. "Defensive fire. Eliminate all incoming objects." The fleet's weapons systems, designed to crack planets, focused their energy beams on the rising seed pods. The results were not encouraging for the Zephyrians. Instead of being destroyed, the seed pods absorbed the energy attacks and used them to accelerate faster. Worse, Each successful hit seemed to trigger the pods to split into multiple smaller projectiles, increasing their numbers exponentially. "They're adaptive," reported the fleet's weapons officer with barely controlled panic. "Our attacks are making them stronger." The first wave of seed pods reached the outer vessels of the Zephyrian fleet, and the real demonstration began. Instead of explosive impacts, the pods adhered to the ship hulls and began growing. Within minutes, alien vessels that had terrorized dozens of species were being consumed by rapidly spreading biological masses that converted their hulls into gardens. But these weren't ordinary plants. The organisms growing on the ships were digesting advanced alloys, processing antimatter fuel systems, and somehow interfacing directly with Zephyrian technology. On the infected vessels, control systems began responding to signals from the planetary network rather than their original operators. "We're losing ships," Drixval's communications officer reported. "The toxin bearer, Death Wind, and Plague Spreader have all been completely overrun. But, sir, they're not being destroyed, they're being converted." Through the ship's external cameras, the Admiral could see the horrible truth. The infected vessels were still functional, but now they were taking orders from the planet below. Worst of all, they were turning their weapons on their former fleet mates. On Earth, the enhanced humans were discovering the true scope of their new capabilities. They weren't just connected to the planetary network. They had become its operational interface, capable of controlling biological systems on a scale that encompassed the entire world. Dr. Foster, her consciousness expanded beyond individual identity, found herself coordinating the biological conversion of captured alien vessels with the casual efficiency of someone operating familiar equipment. Through the planetary network, she could perceive every system on the infected ships and direct their transformation with precision that amazed even her enhanced mind. "We're not just defending Earth," she realized aloud. "We're claiming their technology, learning their capabilities, preparing to take the fight to them." Sarah Chun, now processing information flows that would have overwhelmed entire computer networks, was coordinating global strategy with enhanced humans on every continent. "The planet has been planning this for 2 centuries, she reported. Every toxic dump they made was analyzed, studied, prepared for. Earth knows everything about their technology now." Young Tommy Patterson, his consciousness fully merged with the planetary intelligence, spoke with authority that silenced the adults around him. "The Empire thinks technology and biology are separate things. They don't understand that life itself is technology, just much more advanced than anything they've built." His words proved prophetic as the battle in space intensified. The converted Zephyrian ships weren't just following Earth's commands. They were being improved by the planetary network. Biological enhancements spread through their systems, increasing their efficiency, expanding their capabilities, and, most remarkably, allowing them to reproduce. Admiral Drixval watched in horror as infected vessels began budding off smaller craft like seeds from a plant. Each new ship was a hybrid of Zephyrian technology and Earth biology, perfectly adapted for spreading the planet's influence across the galaxy. "This is not warfare," he realized with dawning terror. "This is biological conquest on a cosmic scale." Captain Vexthal, monitoring the battle from the surface, felt a mixture of awe and guilt. His species had been dumping waste on what they thought was a dead world, never imagining they were feeding something capable of challenging the entire galactic order. "Your people," he said to the humans around him, "they're not just defending themselves. They're preparing to spread beyond Earth." Tom Martinez nodded gravely. "The planet has been patient for 4 billion years. But your empire forced its hand. Earth can't remain isolated anymore. Not when there are species out there who think it's acceptable to poison entire worlds." The implications were staggering. Humanity had become the immune system of a planet-sized organism that was preparing to spread across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire, in their casual cruelty, had awakened something that would fundamentally change the balance of power in their sector of space. As the space battle raged overhead, with more Zephyrian vessels falling to biological conversion every hour, the enhanced humans on Earth were already looking beyond their current victory. Through the planetary network, they could sense other worlds that had been poisoned by Imperial waste dumps, other ecosystems that were crying out for the gift of Earth's evolutionary wisdom. The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. And for the first time in galactic history, The aggressor was about to discover what happened when you picked a fight with an entire planet that had been preparing for war since before your species learned to use fire. 6 months after the first contact with the Zephyrian fleet, the transformed Earth had become something unprecedented in galactic history. What had once been a hidden dumping ground was now the center of a growing biological empire that challenged every assumption about the nature of life and civilization. Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of the New Harmony, formerly the Zephyrian Dreadnought Void Cleanser, watching the construction of humanity's first interstellar expedition. The ship's bridge was a living organism now, its walls pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns that displayed navigation data directly into the minds of its human crew. "Final systems check complete," reported DR. Amanda Foster, her enhanced consciousness interfaced with the ship's biological computers. All hybrid technologies are functioning within optimal parameters. The New Harmony represented everything Earth had learned from absorbing Zephyrian technology. The vessel was simultaneously machine and organism, capable of traveling faster than light through conventional drives while healing itself, adapting to new environments, and even reproducing when necessary. Most importantly, it carried within its living hull the seeds of Earth's ecosystem, ready to spread life to worlds that had been sterilized by Imperial doctrine. Admiral Drixval, now serving as a voluntary advisor to the human fleet, studied the displays with mixed emotions. The former commander of the sterilization force had undergone his own transformation after witnessing the true scope of Earth's capabilities. Connected to the planetary network through careful biological modifications, he retained his tactical knowledge while gaining an understanding of life that his species had never possessed. The target system contains 17 worlds that our forces sterilized over the past century, he reported to the mixed human Zephyrian crew. Imperial doctrine considered them contaminated beyond recovery. Tom Martinez, now serving as the expedition's biological coordinator, nodded grimly. The planetary network has been receiving distress calls from those worlds for decades. Their ecosystems were destroyed, but the fundamental patterns of life remain in the soil, waiting for the right conditions to regenerate. Young Tommy Patterson, now 14 and serving as humanity's primary interface with the planetary consciousness, spoke with the authority that came from channeling 4 billion years of evolutionary wisdom. Earth has been preparing seed packages specifically designed for each of those worlds. We're not just bringing life back, we're bringing it back better than it was before. The expedition represented more than just humanitarian aid. Through their connection to the planetary network, the enhanced humans had learned that Earth's ecosystem could interface with and enhance any biosphere it encountered. The galaxy was full of worlds where life had taken different evolutionary paths, and Earth was eager to learn from them while sharing its own innovations. Captain Vexthal, now commanding a hybrid vessel called the Redemption, served as liaison between the human expedition and the growing number of Zephyrian defectors who had joined Earth's cause. His ship was a perfect example of biological-technological integration, with living hull sections that could adapt to any environment while maintaining the speed and firepower necessary for exploring hostile space. Long-range sensors are detecting Imperial patrol vessels in the target system, he reported. Admiral Crixmore's Third Fleet appears to be maintaining a quarantine around the dead worlds. Sarah's enhanced mind processed tactical possibilities faster than any computer. They're afraid the sterilized worlds might recover naturally, though it undermined their entire doctrine of biological superiority. The truth was more complex and more disturbing. Through interrogation of captured Imperial databases, humanity had learned that the Zephyrian Empire's waste disposal program was actually a deliberate strategy for preventing the evolution of potential rival species. By poisoning promising worlds before intelligent life could emerge, they maintained their position as the dominant force in their sector of space. They've been committing genocide on a cosmic scale for millennia, Dr. Foster observed with barely controlled anger. Not just against existing civilizations, but against life itself. Admiral Drixval's shame was visible even through his alien features. The Empire teaches that inferior species must be eliminated to prevent contamination of the galaxy. We never questioned whether we had the right to make such judgments. Tommy Patterson's response carried the weight of planetary consciousness. Every world has the right to evolve, to explore its potential, to contribute to the diversity of life in the universe. That's what Earth has been trying to protect all along. The expedition fleet consisted of 12 hybrid vessels, each one a unique fusion of human creativity, Earth biology, and converted Zephyrian technology. As they approached the edge of Imperial space, their living sensors detected something that changed the entire scope of their mission. Multiple distress signals, reported Communications Officer Maria Santos, her enhanced hearing capable of detecting biological calls for help across interstellar distances. Not just from sterilized worlds, from active Imperial territories. There are inhabited planets throughout their space that are calling for liberation. The implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't just poisoned dead worlds. They were actively suppressing life on inhabited ones, maintaining their dominance through environmental terror that kept other species from achieving their full potential. How many worlds are we talking about? Sarah asked, though her enhanced intuition already suspected the answer would be overwhelming. Tommy closed his eyes, his consciousness expanding through quantum biological networks that connected all living things across vast distances. When he opened them again, his expression was grim beyond his years. Hundreds of worlds, maybe thousands. The Empire has been systematically poisoning any planet that shows signs of developing advanced life. They've turned an entire spiral arm of the galaxy into a biological wasteland. Admiral Drixval's horror was complete. I served the Empire for 2 centuries. I believe we were maintaining order, preventing chaos. Instead, we were destroying the galaxy's potential for growth and diversity. But Earth had been preparing for this revelation. Through the planetary network, enhanced humans worldwide had been developing biological technologies that could not only heal poisoned worlds, but actively reverse centuries of environmental damage. We're not just bringing seeds anymore, Tom Martinez announced, his connection to the planetary network showing him visions of possibilities that transcended current reality. We're bringing evolutionary acceleration. We can help each world develop its own unique biological solutions, its own path to advanced consciousness. The first test came at Zirian 7, a world that Imperial forces had sterilized just 50 years earlier. Long-range scans showed a planet covered in gray dust and toxic oceans with no detectable life signs. According to Imperial records, it had once been home to a silicon-based civilization that was approaching spaceflight capability. Perfect target for demonstration, Sarah decided. If we can restore a completely dead world, it will send a message across the entire galaxy. The new Harmony entered orbit around Zirian 7, while Captain Vexthal's redemption took up escort position. The planet below looked like a monument to cosmic murder, beautiful once, but now reduced to sterile silence by Imperial doctrine. Tommy Patterson placed his hands on the ship's living interface, his consciousness merging with Earth's planetary network to assess the challenge they faced. What he found was both heartbreaking and hopeful. The life patterns are still here, he announced with growing excitement. Deep in the crystalline matrix of the planet's core. The silicon-based organisms didn't die. They went dormant, waiting for conditions that would allow them to emerge again. Dr. Foster began preparing the biological reconstruction protocols that Earth had been developing. We'll need to neutralize the Imperial toxins first, then introduce catalytic organisms that can interface with silicon-based life. This is going to be the most complex biological engineering project humanity has ever attempted. But they weren't doing it alone. As the new Harmony began releasing Earth's seed pods into Zirian 7's toxic atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The dormant consciousness of the planet itself began to respond, reaching out through quantum biological networks to merge with Earth's expanding awareness. They're still alive down there, Tommy reported with wonder. Not the individual organisms, but the planetary consciousness that they created. It's been waiting for someone to help it rebuild. What followed was unlike anything in recorded history. 2 planetary consciousnesses, one from Earth and one from Zirian 7, began collaborating on a biological resurrection project that combined carbon-based and silicon-based life in ways that neither world could have achieved alone. Within hours, the gray surface of Zirian 7 began to sparkle with new growth. But instead of Earth plants, what emerged was something entirely novel. Hybrid organisms that combined the best traits of both worlds' evolutionary paths. Crystal forests began growing at visible speeds, their structures beautiful beyond imagination, and their capabilities extending far beyond anything either planet had developed independently. The transformation was visible from orbit as dead gray gave way to shimmering colors that had never existed before. More importantly, The new hybrid ecosystem was sending out signals that other dormant worlds throughout the region could detect, proof that restoration was possible, that the Empire's genocide could be reversed. Admiral Crixmore's Third Fleet arrived to find Zirian 7 not only restored to life, but transformed into something that exceeded its original biosphere by orders of magnitude. The Imperial commander's first reaction was to order immediate re-sterilization, but his crews were already being affected by proximity to the restored world's enhanced consciousness. "Sir," his communications officer reported with growing confusion, "the planet is communicating with our crews directly. They're saying they want to defect. The biological networks that Earth had developed didn't just spread life. They spread consciousness, understanding, and the desire for freedom from systems that suppressed natural growth." Exposure to Earth's enhanced awareness was showing Zephyrian crews exactly what their empire had been destroying for millennia. Within days, half of Crixmore's fleet had joined the rebellion, their ships undergoing rapid biological conversion as their crews chose life over doctrine. The remaining vessels retreated to Imperial space, carrying news that would shake the foundation of Zephyrian civilization. Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of the New Harmony, watching as the fleet prepared to move on to the next poison world. Around her, representatives of 12 different species worked together with a harmony that the galaxy had never seen. Humans, reformed Zephyrians, awakened silicon-based consciousness from Zirian 7, and hybrid beings that represented the future of interstellar cooperation. "Status report on the restoration fleet," she requested. 67 vessels now under our command," reported Dr. Foster. "Mix of converted Imperial ships, hybrid constructions, and living vessels grown from Earth seeds. Each one is equipped for biological resurrection of dead worlds." Tom Martinez added his agricultural perspective. "The seed banks are reaching critical mass. Each world we restore adds its unique biological innovations to our collective knowledge. We're not just spreading Earth's ecosystem anymore. We're creating a galactic community of consciousness." Tommy Patterson, now fully integrated with a planetary network, provided the long-term assessment. "The Empire's response will be to attempt total sterilization of restored worlds before the rebellion can spread. We need to move faster than they can react." Admiral Drixval, studying tactical displays, provided the military analysis. "Imperial High Command is mobilizing the Extinction Fleet, 700 vessels designed specifically for total biosphere elimination. They'll arrive in this sector within 2 months. But Earth had been preparing for this possibility. Through quantum biological networks that now connected dozens of worlds, the enhanced consciousness was developing capabilities that transcended individual planets. "Let them come," Sarah said with quiet confidence. "They're still thinking in terms of ships and weapons and individual worlds. They don't understand that they're fighting life itself now." The final confrontation would determine whether the galaxy continued under Imperial doctrine of sterile control or embraced the chaotic, beautiful potential of unrestricted biological evolution. Humanity had started as an accidental immune system for a single poison world. Now, they had become the catalyst for a transformation that would reshape the entire galaxy. As the Restoration Fleet prepared to spread life to 1,000 poison worlds, one thing was certain. The Zephyrian Empire's long reign of biological terror was coming to an end. What would replace it was still being written in the quantum consciousness of living worlds that refused to accept limits on their potential for growth. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when life itself decided to fight back.